Speaking of IPOs, Discord has confidentially filed to go public according to a report from Bloomberg. It would be the latest in a string of late-stage private companies finally listing on the stock market, although the report said the company could also decide not to go ahead with things. I want to bring on a venture capitalist who has followed the consumer messaging sector fairly closely. Mercedes Bent is a co-founder of Premise. Mercedes, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about Discord. It's a business that we haven't talked about yet here on the show, actually. So I'm excited to to have you help us make sense of it. Brass tacks here. I mean, how does Discord make money? Is it a premium subscription? Is it ads? How does it work?
Discord makes money in three ways. There's kind of the subscriptions that a lot of folks are familiar with, Nitro being the premium subscription model that they have for users. They also have their what I call creator revenue. This is where a lot of the revenue from their community organizers, the people who actually moderate and create the community discords. And then they have the third, which is advertising. So there's a couple of others, but those are kind of the three largest categories of how they're making money.
And do we have a sense as to which of those three categories is the biggest or the fastest growing, even from your what you've seen?
Well, I think the last thing I've seen was private info, so won't share, but I think they, it's
We like private info here on the show, by the way.
and, I do think that one of the things that's interesting about advertising revenue generally for messaging and social platforms is it's largely dependent on how valuable advertisers think your users are. And a lot of the ways that this can come to trip up different companies is where are your users located, where geographically. For example, I've read reports online that Discord has about 25% of their user base in the US. If you compare that to Reddit, where I've seen their user US based percentages closer to 48 to 50%, that's a really big difference because when you start to go outside of the US, users are worth less from an advertising perspective because they don't spend the same amount.
Hmm.
Sometimes, I've always used a rule of thumb around it's almost proportional to the GDP or currency difference from that country to the US. So, for example, for Brazil, it might be worth one fifth, even though that country has very high propensity to adopt social and messaging products at a very high rate. So, I think that's one of the types of quality of revenue questions that would come up if they reportedly, go forward with this IPO. And so that's something that I would be looking for.
And what about the user base right now, the size of it compared to something like Reddit? I mean, is that something that you're familiar with?
It's reportedly quite a bit smaller. I've seen that that Discord has around 200 million plus. Well, that was what was reported last year. So we'll see how much they've
Right.
grown in the last couple of months. But compared to Reddit has over a billion, 1.2 billion of monthly active users. So there's a significant difference in scale when you start to think about what that means for advertising dollars.
But is Reddit the comp then that you would say is the you're smiling. I know this is the question everyone
Deep
wants to know.
question.
Who do I comp it against and how does that affect things? But other than Reddit, which other names would you put up there?
I think this is a really great question, and not all networks are the same. Discord is really an interest first, not identity first network. And if you think about, okay, how do we categorize the different big platforms that fall into those two groups? Reddit, WhatsApp, Telegram might be more on the interest side of things, whereas Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok would be more on the profile side. What this means to me is that as a consumer investor, a consumer VC, is users are coming to the platform because of their interest, not because of what profile I am building. It's not LinkedIn would be more of a profile oriented platform as well. And that changes a lot about how you build the platform, how you can monetize it. And so I think the better comps are probably more the messaging platforms and interest based platforms like Reddit. Funny enough, Discord in the early days in 2015 actually got its start by getting a lot of users distributing through Reddit. So this is a bit of a full circle moment. But I
Hmm.
think it might be a little bit more akin to what if to Reddit and WhatsApp than to a Instagram or a TikTok.
or a Snap
or
for
a Snap.
for that matter.
Exactly.
So if we go with the, maybe Reddit as a comp, I mean, I'm sort of trying to think about the future of Discord's business, and where you think it could go. Reddit obviously has done a lot with its data, and it's sort of had its own AI play. I mean, those three revenue streams you talked about with Discord, could you see there being new revenue streams, or how do you think the shape of the business changes in the future?
It's an excellent question. I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from Reddit. I mean, one of the biggest advantages that scaled consumer platforms have right now is that their data can be a new monetization stream. This is something that the last decade, when a consumer company or any company told me, we're going to monetize our data, I used to sort of roll my eyes and say,
Right.
sure, sure. Everyone says that. But I'm now eating my words because in the last few years, it actually has become a real capability due to the foundation models. And so if you look at the partnerships that Reddit has formed with some of the larger foundation models, and now Reddit being the number one, at least until August 2025, when OpenAI began ranking and downranking them quite a bit, Reddit really was the number one source of information and resources on OpenAI and a few other chat foundation models. So I do think Discord could do something like this. It obviously they've had a lot of uh, instances over the years where they've had clashes with their user base who is very vocal and passionate about why they use Discord and what they're here for. So I imagine that would be another fun minefield to navigate. But I do think it certainly could be a real opportunity for them to monetize via the large, hungry budgets of the foundation models to use their data for that.
Well, and so let me ask you this. I'm just looking it up here. So I was looking at Reddit's revenue multiple, and so I'm on Koifin here. So they're trading at about 17 times next 12 months revenue, 24 times last 12 months revenue. So if you were to just throw it out there, do you think Discord gets a Reddit size multiple? Is it higher? Is it lower?
Oh, you're asking me to be just totally wrong on whatever I say in terms of
It's
what comes.
prediction season.
It's
That's what it's for.
prediction season,
But it sounded to me, if I just connect the dots. I mean, you talked about the user base, and by the way, the geography of the user base is something we've talked about on the show with ChatGPT as well, and the extent to which its users are located in North America or abroad. Um, 25% of users in the U.S., I think, is what you mentioned. That's the latest estimate. So maybe it's not worth as much on a multiple base. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly not. A lot of times multiples are also a factor of your rate of growth and of your profitability levels, not just the absolute
Right,
scale.
right, yeah, yeah,
But
right.
I agree with you. I think typically the public markets are rewarding a total combination of scale plus rate of growth plus profitability levels. And so some of these data points we don't have information about, but broad strokes, it probably would be a smaller overall IPO would be my guess, just based on the size of the user base.
Great.
But
And
I
and
won't say exactly on revenue multiples.
right. And Mercedes, I just wanted to clarify very quickly. You are not an investor in Discord, right?
No.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I guess private documents float around even for people who are involved in the company. So
Exactly.
when those private documents become public, we'll bring you back on the show and you can talk more about it.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, Mercedes, I want to thank you for joining us. That is Mercedes Bent, co-founder and partner at Premise here on TITV.